All right, so today, a little video that I'm putting together here is about your 401k. So, very popular topic, but what we're going to do is I want to show you why if you have a 401k or a Roth, you should get out of them or take loans out against them as soon as possible. If you have a Roth, you should just get out of it. It's not going to do any good. The legislation or your elected leaders can change the rules of these anytime, along with changing. Ooh. All right, back to why your Roth and 401k are bad, and why you should either get out of the Roth if you have a 401k. I want you to look up a couple things on your 401k. I want you to look up your expense ratios for whatever funds you have, because they have limited ones. Is that even big enough? Can you see that? Expense. There you go. All right. So your expense ratios, which you're going to see are pretty high, and then I want you to compare that, your expense ratio, to the percent of interest that they would charge you if you took out a loan against your own money. So if you have a 401k, I feel bad for you, but you could. There's hope, and the hope's in the form of a personal loan against your 401k. Your personal loan against your 401k is probably going to be around 2 or 3%. Okay. Now, what they tell you is that, well, when you get old enough and you start pulling for your 401k, you're going to be paying earned income tax. All right, and earned income tax, if you make more than, I don't know, $10,000, it starts at around 12%. So it doesn't make any sense for you to save that money in there, don't have access to it, can't touch it till you're 65. I don't know, are we going to make it to 65? But you can't touch it, and then you have to pay 12% on taxes when you take money out of it, compared to if you would have taken out a personal loan at 2 or 3% and then dumped it into a brokerage account, whatever. So if you have a brokerage account, trading account, you can actually, and you don't even have to do a bunch of trading. So if you don't want to, if you're afraid of stocks and all this stuff, right, you can look at doing ETFs, which are bundled of many different things, and they're pretty stable. You can look at doing, you can take that loan out at 2 or 3%, right, and then look at doing an ETF that's going to get you more of a return without as high as expense, and you have access to the money now, right? And if you turn on, so if you activate margin for it, what they will do is allow you to borrow against the value of your account. Now, remember tax. This thing right there, that will eat away at you. It doesn't matter what amount you make, you're still going to be eaten alive by taxes. However, when you borrow money, you don't get taxed, if that makes any sense. And you'll see some people talk about it like, oh yeah, I borrowed my way to being rich. Well, yeah, but it's a hard concept to try to grasp. The idea is that while you're making more money, if you start borrowing, you pay less and less in taxes. If you make more money and you don't borrow any money or do anything with it, then you get hit with a huge tax bill because you're not doing what the government wants you to do with the money. So if you look at margin, you can borrow against the value of your shares that you have in your brokerage account. So let's say you drop 20 grand in there, okay? You buy, it's just an example, 20 grand worth of SLG or Dynex Capital or what's another one that does a monthly, Stag or not Iron Mountain, but another ETF, XLE, right? A fuel one. Everybody needs fuel. Haven't seen people stop driving their cars if they have gas or need gas, right? And in the wintertime, they definitely need fuel to provide heat for houses in the cold areas, which I don't live in a cold area, so think for that one. But what you're essentially going to do is you have shares of something, right? And it's worth 20K, you can borrow against that up to like, I think 30 almost. You can bring your account down, you can almost 50 or 60% of that. So you can immediately take out 10K that you can spend on margin that they'll let you borrow against it at like 11 or 12% or something. Now, if you're borrowing money against your account, let me tell you the thing that happens. So let's say there's two events when you do taxes, right? If you get taxed on your stock. One of it's if it's a qualified dividend, and you get taxed when you sell. So if you never sell, you don't create a taxable event. But when you borrow against your shares, okay, you're getting money, but you didn't earn it. It was borrowed, so you're not getting taxed on it. And if you try this out a little bit, you'll start seeing it, and you'll go, why didn't they teach me this in school, right? So if you have margin, brokerage account, margin, take a loan out against your 401k, put the money in there, you'll notice you'll have access to money instantly, plus you're able to purchase equities that right now with the market being so low, everything's a really good deal. So you just got to get your foot in the door to get started, but it'll start making more sense once you get into it. But the other problem too with your Roth and 401k is that it's a real big disadvantage is that you can't sell covered calls. So if you have a 401k or a Roth, you can't sell covered calls. Actually, it's more of a 401k. You can't sell covered calls against the shares you have in there. So let's say if you have $60,000 saved up, right, and you're only making 10% annually from it, that's not much, right? But if you put it in a brokerage account, right, and then you requested margins and you turned on you turned on options, and specifically I think when I looked at last time it was level 2. So if you turn level 2 on, it allows you to do spreads and covered calls. So covered calls are probably the most conservative, less risky, or less risk or risk adverse thing you can do. Covered calls mean that you have 100 shares of something, okay, and you sell the opportunity for someone to buy it from you in the future at a higher price. Now, if the stock never gets to that higher price, which is called the strike price, if it never gets to that higher price, then you get to keep the premium that person paid for the opportunity to buy it from you at that higher price. Now, the cool part about this is these options contracts expire every week. So if you want to sell a covered call and wait till Friday and then it expires worthless, now you just received extra money for owning your shares. So if you have enough money in your account and enough shares, you can literally make a living off of selling covered calls. And let's say if this is your strike price, right? We'll say the stock's trading at $30 a share down here. You set a strike price at $40, right? This is just as an example. And throughout the week, it gets up there and goes past it, right? You are going to make a profit of the difference between the 30 to 40, which is $10, right? So you're going to make a $10 profit from when you bought it to when it was exercised. So $10 profit plus the premium paid, and then you can sell or repurchase the shares again once the price comes down if you want. But you're literally selling access or selling an opportunity for someone to buy something from you in the future at a higher price, and you're doing this every week, and you're actually generating enough revenue that it actually makes sense instead of losing it to 401k fees. And you can spend the money today. You don't have to wait till you're 65. Or now with the current administration, and I think they moved it to 70-something. So you don't have to wait till you're 70-something years old to have access to your money to spend it. You can start today, and you pay less taxes. So the whole tax problem with do I want to pay taxes now and put in a 401k, or do I want to pay taxes later, so I put in a 401k, don't pay any taxes on it, or do I want to pay taxes now and then put it in a Roth and have it grow tax free? However, I can only put 5k in. You don't got to worry about all those different rules, because if you go with your brokerage account and margin, you really won't pay a tax on it anyways, because you're not intending to sell anything. You're just holding on to it and getting more of it, so that way you can borrow more money later, and then you don't have to pay taxes on it. This is crazy. It's baffling, actually. And if you start looking it up, it'll baffle you too. But the main thing to keep in mind is set up a brokerage account. Fidelity, don't use Robinhood. I'm a big fan of full brokerage accounts. Like, Robinhood came to the game, made them change their rules, so now they're not charging as much, or they don't charge anything for the trades, except for if you start doing options and derivatives. But I would say go with a full-fledged brokerage account, like a TD Ameritrade or a Fidelity or a Charles Schwab, but get you something that's been around for a while and they've got pretty good tools to use. Myself, I like using Fidelity because it does have an app inside of it that allows you to do projections and calculations for stuff, which I'll go over later. But it comes in real handy, and when you start messing with it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's Active Trader Pro. However, got to get started on that first. So look up what you need to, and if you have questions, send them to me. But this is, we'll dive more down that rabbit hole later.